What's going on, guys? Zedd here, bringing you another Marvel Midnight Suns video. This one is just going to be sort of my thoughts and feedback after completing one of my challenge runs, my first challenge run. And to give the context of what we're going to talk about, I did Ultimate 3 difficulty, of course. No quick cards, no side mission farming, no hunter on side missions, no combat items, and yeah, so beat the game as fast as possible with no quick cards and no hunter on the side missions and no combat items. That's the gist of what I did. And so I booted up my save and I haven't done anything endgame since on this one. And so what you see is what you'll get. I'm going to go through each of the decks that I ended the game with and just briefly touch on some snippets, but I want to start with general just feedback. And sort of my take on things. So number one, I was surprised at how difficult Act 1 was. I thought, oh, quicks are convenient, but they're not that. Like, surely I'm overrating them, right? Well, Act 1 was kind of like, okay, quicks are almost mandatory. They feel mandatory. I mean, they weren't, but it was incredibly difficult, especially the first couple missions with like your forced compositions with Hunter's Strange Blade and Hunter Marvel. Um, yeah, Hunter Marvel. Because essentially what I had to do was I would go into a mission and I'd have two quicks on Hunter, two quicks on Blade, and two quicks on Strange, and I couldn't use any of them. The ruling I did was, I'm not even going to play a card if it has the quick, effect. So I kept redrawing them. But we got through it. Act 2 felt very similar. It's one of the harder parts of the game in general. But I was starting to cut quicks, and it was by about the time, I would say, about the time you kill Venom at the end of Act 1, so beginning of Act 2 is where I was able to get all the quick cards out of all my characters' decks. So that was sort of when the run finally was like, okay, we have no more quicks, we have no more redraw fodder, let's begin. And I'll say that by the time I got to sort of the Ghost Rider sections of the game in Act 2, the game felt no different. So to my surprise, Act 2 and Act 3, I had no quicks, and I used very, very little marked, and I didn't really miss them. And I found this quite surprising. I thought, oh, surely this will be a challenge the whole way through, but honestly, halfway through the run, I didn't even miss the quick cards, at least not for the quick. Um, so that's just some general feedback on no quick. The whole no items and no hunter on sides, that was honestly a non-issue. I didn't really use combat items before, and I still didn't on this run. Now, with the no side mission farming, and I'm a big proponent of using the whole roster because the whole roster needs to be used at different points in the game, I struggled with certain characters more than others because there was no time to get them online. For example, Wanda is a good example of this. But then characters like Spider-Man, who I normally would stop investing into after Act 1, I continued to invest a little bit of time into because I figured, well, with no quicks, surely chain would be better, right? Turns out that this was also not entirely true. Not entirely wrong, and chain cards did feel marginally better. But even without quick and without chain, it really just becomes a game of, okay, in the early game, you have less reinforcements and you want to use more environmentals, and then as you transition to the mid and late game in the other sections of the game, right outside of New York, you go to Transia, right? Um, the ley lines, right, become very, very useful, right? You can bust them up for one heroism or just even a shove, and all of a sudden you're destroying your minions. And to that end, shove also was, I mean, a shove is amazing, but shove was very much an MVP of the run. Now, if I was to do this no quicks, no items without shove, still doable because I was still able to do the early game without it, so it's doable. It would just be adding extra fluff and runtime to the bill or to the run, and I don't really think that that's necessary. So all that to say, I don't think You try not to be afraid of cutting quicks from your decks. Try to experiment without them more. I would say even without challenges, I only run about 4 quicks across my team, by Act 2, Act 3, and that's because other cards just inherently are more valuable. Now, quicks are still good for a few things. Number one, they are a way to generate more card plays, obviously. Duh. Number two, they're a way to get through your hand better, or faster, so you draw more the following turn. Yes, and they are a way to sort of cycle the deck faster. Yes, but if your deck building, if you cut the quicks, that means your deck building has to be better, right? You have to cut the fluff, you have to cut out what's unnecessary, you have to cut out the inconsistencies, you have to cut out the bricky cards, and your goal is to basically have every card you draw be effective to play, right? Like that was the goal of the decks. Now without side mission farming, it's very much a what you see is what you get situation for me when I play this game. And you'll see when I go through the decks, there were some cases where this was obvious. But yeah, that's sort of my feedback on no quicks. I'm just gonna briefly touch on the characters and go through them. Now, I guess we'll start with the hunter because it's probably the one that people would be most interested in. So this is what I ran. Last Sight, great card. I don't ever reroll my mods either, so what you see is what I got. Last Sight was nice. Slash just for the knockback. Last Sight for the concealment and this is pretty pivotal for the last mission, the final mission. Wild Strike is just a very high damaging card with really good mod choices. Fortify is a personal flavor pick of mine, but again, I really enjoy this for the final mission. And again, because I'm not farming cards, I have to, once I get the Fortify, it's like, oh, I have it now. Like, I'm going to lock this down and keep it for me while I get through the rest of the game if I don't continue with it. Heal Plus, this card's, pretty well a staple on Ultimate 3. In my opinion, at least. It's really nice to have. It's really convenient. And I high rolled. I got Conceal on redraw, which was awesome. Wrath. Wrath is an amazing card, again, especially for the final mission. And before it was Wrath, I had Call to Arms. So I often will pick up Call to Arms, use that throughout the entire game, and then transition to Wrath. Works really, really well. Whip is, again, another card that I think is insanely strong. I will tell you that Bands of Fire, I think, is a better card if you roll Forceful Knockback mod, but I don't really want to take that chance, so I instead just go for Whip upgraded. And then Bladestorm because I think it's just the best, most consistent Hunter Midnight Suns card you can get. And because I'm speedrunning, it's incredibly hard to... Honestly, it's quite difficult to push light all the way or dark all the way. It's not impossible, but it takes a long, long time. And I would rather have pushed my team's friendship levels and get them their small bonuses rather than push for Annihilation. So Annihilation's good if you like it, but Bladestorm is great. Fully Charged is broken, and Balance Collar is broken if you run at least 4 or 5 power cards. And let's see, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. So that's my hunter build. No quicks. The idea is just very self-sufficient build. I don't even need a team, right? I have healing, I have defenses, I have a conceal, I have CC, I have high damage, CC, high damage, CC, high damage. So hunter, very self-sufficient build. This is pretty akin to what I would run before. The only difference is I'll sometimes cut either the Fortify or the Wrath, depending on the game, or depending on the mission, rather. And yeah, so that's Hunter. The other ones are incomplete because, again, what you see is what you get, and I get through quickly. I'm going to stop reiterating that point. So this is what I ended with on Blade. Reaper, very high damaging card. Relentless, very high damaging card. And Relentless, actually, I really like the mod choices on Relentless. And so this was one of the first cards I actually got, and I actually rolled Relentless Plus apply 1 week. I got it from a what do you call it? Like the hero missions or whatever. It was a upgraded, modded rare card for Blade, and then I just upgraded it. So that was really nice. Strike because having, like I said, having some chain is nice since I don't have quick. I'm not a huge strike fan, but it's good. It can apply the bleed, and yeah. Make 'em bleed, I like it at 1 copy. Some people like it at 2. Personally, I like it at 1. 2 feels clunky, and it sucks to draw Make 'em bleed into Make 'em bleed. The hunger, it's nice to have. I more was using it for the fact that it's marked on this run, but honestly, like if memory serves, I only used it for the marked maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe, and even then. Stake is a staple one-off, Daywalker a staple one-off, and Glaive a staple one-off. These 3 heroics never change for me, regardless of what kind of blade build I'm doing. This is pretty much how I build the character. The only thing I would change is I'd actually probably cut the Hunger for a quick strike, and then I'd probably cut Relentless for or Strike for a quick strike, depending on what I modded and what I rolled. This is all just personal preference. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. If you like the Hunger, all the power to you. It's nice to thin the hand a little bit, for sure. Cap, no quicks, right? There's no quicks in any of them, but Brooklyn Handshake, I like this. It does a lot of damage, and it's his only forceful knockback. Punch Plus, I actually hate this card, but I'm running it because I don't have Quick Punch. This would be Quick Punch if this was a regular run. 2 copies of Dig In. I didn't get to upgrade this one, obviously, but upgraded, it's very good. 1 copy of Tactician. You can honestly cut Tactician, but I never pulled anything else better. Best Defense is great. Shield Bounce is great. And Shield Charge, honestly, take it or leave it. I would say you could cut it if you don't like it, and I wouldn't even ask you twice about it. I'd be like, sure, that's fine. But I like it. I like Best Defense with Shield Charge. Marvel, double knee strike. So if you can't bring quicks, and Cosmic Ray kind of sucks, she only has 1 attack card left, and that is knee strike. So 2 copies of knee strike. It also gives her just good amounts of block. Captain Marvel was actually surprisingly a standout character. The thus far Blade and Cap were exactly what you thought they were. You know, they were solid, they were decent, but Captain Marvel was genuinely surprisingly strong. I used her right up until the very end, and that was quite shocking. So double knee strike, double bring it ons. I would upgrade them both, but I didn't get it. 1 copy of Step Ahead. I don't like 2; it's too clunky. And then 2 Fists of Radiance, 1 Supernova. The reason these are unupgraded is because it's expensive, and upgraded it doesn't really add much to her kit, in my opinion. Yes, I could put a mod on it, but honestly, it doesn't matter. And then Supernova is just a nice AoE, especially when you don't have quicks. Pretty straightforward, nothing really to say here. Strange, so Strange only has 2 attack cards, Winds of Watum and Bolts of Balthak. So the Bolt of Balthak, I was really lucky in that I rolled a mod that was a redraw mod. Yeah, it sucks, but the thing is, I only played this card I think twice in the entire run, and the only reason it's in the deck is because you must have 1 attack card. So yeah. 2 copies of Agamotto's Gaze. Agamotto's Gaze was a pretty standout card because of the fact I don't have quicks. Having that extra card play was really nice. Vapors of Altor, this is a staple one-off. I actually ran 2 copies of Axe of Angarumus. Reason being is without quicks, fights lasted longer, reinforcements came in more, and I had to survive longer, right? You think about it. If you don't have quicks, you're killing less units, and therefore you're taking more damage. So having more access to weaken became quite strong. 1 copy of Crimson Bands. This card's great. It's nice when you can fit it in, but I think on a more normal run, it's a take it or leave it. But again, when Sustain becomes name of the game, this card's quite good. And 7 Suns, take it or leave it card, honestly, but I like it. Ghost Rider, literally identical build. Nothing changes. This is the best in slot Ghost Rider build. It's not even a question. You cannot argue with it. The only thing you would do, obviously, is make Lash Plus. I couldn't upgrade it because it becomes quick. But Lash is still an incredible card on its own, at least for what you want to do with Ghost Rider. And in a speedrun with Ghost Rider, you're really only using him on soulless missions and the mission where you're breaking the pillars. So you can kind of get away with a pretty cheap build. So 2 copies of Upgraded Straight to Hell. The upgrade is more important than the mods because it does heal him. 1 copy of Hellmouth for Strengthened. You could honestly cut this, but I like it for the one-off chance you need it. 2 copies of Lash. This card's amazing, upgraded. and then 2 copies of Hellride because there's nothing else to take, and you don't want Drain Soul, so yeah. And then Pennant, oh yeah, Pennant Stare as well. I'm not a huge fan of this card, but if you take it on Ghost Rider with the sole intention of it being your final card played in the mission, it's nice to have. So for example, if you're running against like a Fallen Reinforcement, or you're fighting one of the Fallen, or you know, a Guardian, it's nice to be able to just nuke them and win the game. I so I didn't really use Hulk. I do have some changes because I did. You do often get him in the final mission, so I do have to make some changes. Always Angry is really nice to have, so I got very lucky and I managed to cope 2 copies. Smash, so okay, Smash unupgraded is fine because the upgrade is if target has full health, which is effectively not useful. And then 2 copies because it stuns. 2 copies of Always Angry because it's great. 2 copies of Challenging Roar is what I had, but kind of the same thing. I use Hulk as a way of, like, he's just more of a supportive unit in the final mission, and I only used him on the final mission in this run. Rampage is nice just for that taunt control and high damage, and then Thunderclap, same thing. I couldn't actually afford the heroism, or rather the essence, to upgrade it, but I would have loved to have upgraded it for that final mission. Not much to say here on Hulk. I did not, because he's not required on any mission, it's hard for me to invest time into him for a run like this, so I didn't. Iron Man, so the standout for Iron Man, I really didn't use anything in this deck at all except for the upgraded Mark Target. It was actually really crappy not having Quick Blast. I think Quick Blast is pretty integral to the character, but this is a pretty standard Iron Man build. The only changes you might see would be like people bring Precision and a Quick Blast sometimes. But Double Blast, I got really lucky in that this one applies Bleed and this one applies Marked, which was pretty high roll because he's more of a utility focus. This is more of a utility focused build. Copy of Leave It to Me, pretty standard for Iron Man. 2 Marked Target upgraded. This was just for the Marked again. This was quite useful, obviously, in the Captain America mission, right? Some assembly required, the story mission, and because early on I still had Quicks in my Hunter deck. Cap came with Quicks in his deck, so it was super convenient having Mark instead. Surgical Strike, pretty standard. Hellfire Beam, this is just a flavor pick. I actually would not recommend you run Hellfire Beam. However, the reason I did was I wanted another means of just clearing minions, right? Like, that was the whole name of the game. Any AoE or beam or line or chain automatically gets a little more value in this run. But otherwise, on a regular run, I would not recommend Hellfire Beam. And Air Superiority, same exact logic. It's great for just clearing trash. Iron Man was very much a trash clearer for me on this run. Magik, she was, oh man, she was so standout even without Quick Soul Slash, which didn't surprise me. But there are a few changes I would make. So 2 copies of Kick. I love 2 copies of Kick. It's such a high damaging coefficient that synergizes with her portals. And Limbo's Grasp. So Limbo's Grasp with the high base damage of Kick is super good. Soul Blast is here because I couldn't use a Quick Soul Slash. Really, it's that simple. Gather was great for setting up these beams and AoEs that I've talked about already, as well as, again, clearing trash. Banish Plus is a staple for me, and I think, in my opinion, I high rolled on this mod, Redraw Cure, because the mod is literally irrelevant for Banish. It's nice to get either on Redraw Gain Heroism or on Redraw Cure. Super nice. And then Darkchild was, again, really awesome because fights take longer, so sustains the name of the game. I mean, the card's insane, but it was really noticeable in this run. Nico, even though she has no quicks, she actually felt not great. And I know I'm a bit of a Nico hater, but the reason she didn't feel great was because she kind of struggles to get insane value off of individual card plays, right? Like, she's a support character slash DPS. She's good at sort of setting up your team for success, or setting up big turns with the Empower or Double Up, which I actually didn't get this run at all. And so it was kind of hard to make her work. The reason she's so upgraded was because I knew for a fact, if I don't upgrade this character, it's going to be a nightmare when I have to deal with Wanda or I have to deal with the final Act 2 mission, right? Part 1 of Act 2, you're running Hunter Nico Magik. That mission is quite difficult in general, and at least for speedruns. And so you have to have an upgraded Nico for that mission, or it's just going to feel awful. So, not much to say here. One curse because you have to bring an attack, and I hate all of her attacks, honestly. But curse is convenient. And on redraw gain heroism, this is awesome because if I roll a debuff I don't want, it's like, oh, I'll just redraw this and gain heroism. So that was really nice. Blood magic, 2 copies of it. I like 2 copies of it. Restore, 1 copy. I don't like 2. It's too clunky because you don't want 2 restores just stuck in your hand. Empower at 1 off. I don't like 2, and it's contesting for the skill card slots. Crack the Sky at 1. I never actually used this run, but it was nice to have. Swarm at 1, this is just her only real significant source of damage. And then Witch Storm as well, it can do high damage, but it's a little expensive if you don't upgrade it, and then when you do upgrade it, it's like, okay, I didn't get this upgraded, excuse me, until it was too late to matter. Wanda was awful. I turned her into just a minion machine, if you will. So 2 copies of Hexbolt. I would have actually ended up cutting Hexfield, but I never needed to. So 2 copies of Hexbolt, again, just to clear trash, just to use on Nest Mother. And again, if, Wanda's only required on 1 mission, I believe. Yeah, 1 mission. And on that mission, I don't know if you've noticed this, but on the Witch of Wundagore Mountain, your cards automatically upgrade. So the reality is, I didn't need to upgrade Hexbolt. However, there were times where I wanted to, and I wanted to have her also a playable character for the final mission. So that's actually why you'll notice none of these up here are modded, because these were just last minute additions. Chaos Field, I never actually used this to great effect, but it was just another skill card, and I never pulled a second copy of Hexmark. I only used Hexmark like a couple times as well, not as much as you might think. Chaos Reigns was awesome in this mission, or this run. It's very high value, it does a lot of damage, especially late game. X-Charge is also an amazing card, very underrated. I think a lot of players misunderstand how it works, so they don't even try it. But essentially, it eats the target's action, and you know how when Wanda sets the charge on somebody, or how an officer sets someone to go kaboom, or something, or rather, when a shield guard goes kaboom, it's exactly the same thing. So instead of, like, you could cast this on a Guardian, right? And instead of protecting the Nest Mother, now she's vulnerable. Or instead of attacking your team, he's now going to explode. So Hex Charge is great. I highly suggest you experiment with it in your Wanda builds. Yeah, and no more. I ran this same reason I run Penance Stare. If it's my finale card and I happen to draw it and it happens to be the time for it, amazing. But otherwise, I didn't use it. Spider-Man was he was okay. I didn't actually get as much value off of him as I was hoping, which is a little unfortunate, but that's okay. So 2 chain strikes because I can't run quick kick, and then special delivery at 1. I actually would have liked this at 2, but I never found more than 1. Spider Sense at 1, I don't like 2, it's too clunky. Web Slinger, I actually don't really like this card. However, in this specific build, in this specific run, it was useful because it allowed me to make up here a more impactful play, and it also made special delivery do more damage because of how forceful knockback works. That being it scales off of the distance knocked back in the offense rating. So Web Slinger special delivery was quite high value at many times. As you can see, this is unupgraded. I literally didn't pull another one or the essence to make another one. Whip Plus at 1. I high rolled and got this on free. A lot of Spider-Man's cards can roll free, but I rolled this, so that was super awesome. 1 copy of up here, really, really awesome. The amount of damage this card does is insane, and it applies weak, so it's like Axe of Angarumis, but honestly better. Really, really awesome card. I would love to run this at 2, but I never found 2. And Infernal Spider is just sort of complementary with the entire kit, so it's nice to just have. And last up, Wolverine. So Wolverine, really unfortunate, I didn't pull a Stink of Fear or a Power Slash, which really hurt. I was like dreading it every time. I was always hoping every blue on a coil that was Wolverine, like It never happened. So he unfortunately underperformed, but you kind of have to use him a lot in sort of the mid-late game, and that was unfortunate, but it is what it is. So you always want to run 4 attacks on Wolverine. I've said this for a long time, and always, like, it doesn't matter what combination, whether it's, you know, the swipe or the strengthen, the quick, or the power slash. Run 4 attacks. If you're not running 4 attacks on Wolverine, I think you're just doing it wrong. So this is just what I pulled. 2 Lethal Pounce was great. It's very synergetic with Midnight Special. It's pretty much the only way to make Midnight Special even remotely a good card, is to be strengthened before you use it. So 2 Lethal Pounce, 1 Midnight Special. These are like one and the same. Two Chain Swipes. I like them both because, well, this one I rolled Apply Bleed, which was nice, but they both can apply Weaken on a full combo target if I so choose. And yeah, 1 copy of Berserk. I only like 1. I don't like more. And 2 copies of Eviscerate. I think it's his best heroic. I wouldn't really run the other one. I think it's like I don't know what it's called, but it does extra damage if a target has block. So Wolverine was quite underwhelming. Again, no surprise. And it was really unfortunate. However, having access to all this chain was useful at times, especially with the nest mommy missions, and you know, being able to apply Weaken on Fallen was nice. He just kind of lacked value, and I want to touch on the fact that I tried really hard to make Blessing of the Vishanti for Strange work, but because in my head when I started the run, I was like, oh, Blessing of the Vishanti, I'll use that on chain characters, and the chain characters will just pop off, right? No, it still didn't work. It still was too underwhelming. It just wasn't enough power. It just wasn't worth the card playing Blessing of the Vishanti. So yeah, there you go. Those are the decks I ran with it. Those are the decks I beat the game with. And honestly, like, just to reiterate, you really don't need quicks. Like, they're good. They're convenient. They're useful. You should run them. But what I'm trying to emphasize with that statement is, don't feel like it's, you know, let's just say you I don't know. Let's say you boot up Doctor Strange, right? Let's say, and you have 2 copies of Winds of Watum, and you're like, oh man, you know, I really just hate the fact I feel like I have to run this card. Well, take it from me, you don't have to. You're not gonna lose without it. You're not gonna, like, yeah. And I was still pulling 3 stars on these missions anyway, so not all of them obviously, but I was still getting 3 stars, not a ton of KOs. So you don't need quicks. So if you feel like you're stuck on quicks, if you feel like you're you know, unable to play without them, I promise you can cut them. Okay? Like, it didn't really change the builds that much. Like, a lot of these builds are pretty much what I would run with, like, just with quicks, honestly. I think the ones where I felt it the most, like individual characters where I felt it the most, were probably Spider-Man and Wanda, and actually these 4 here. So the L shape, Ghost Rider, Magik, Spider-Man, Wanda. These 4 I could tell the most because it was like, oh, when Lash isn't quick, it feels rough. And then, oh, not having a quick Soul Slasher too is rough. Wanda without Quick Toss is awful. She felt awful without Quick Toss, which is her rare. And then Quick Kick is really, really convenient and useful to his style of play. So, anywho, that's my feedback. I you know, it was a fun run, and I enjoyed the challenge. And my next challenge run, at the time of this video, I am currently working on like a Deadly Grounds summon run. So, it is Deadly Grounds on the Hunter. It is going to be summon reinforcement, or sorry, reinforcement on Magik. It's going to be summon Charlie as my legendary of choice, and so I'm going to find a way to make all those work on with no combat items, no side mission farming. I am going to take the Hunter on side missions because that's kind of the whole point. It's going to be like a gimmicky Deadly Ground run. But yeah, no combat items, no side mission farming, and still Ultimate 3. That's what I'm currently working on if you're interested in that. So If you have any other suggestions for challenges, if you have any other comments or things based on this video, I would love to hear them and have a discussion with you in the bottom comment section rather. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.